Hey, hi guys, welcome back, Pisces. All right, so we are going to start out with some mythology. And what we've got here is the Five of Wands. Now, this particular Five of Wands is associated with the kind of like one of the lesser gods in Greek mythology, known as Zealous. And that is where we get the word later on in culturally for zest. So he was one, well, he and his siblings were the winged gods or lesser gods that sat around Zeus's throne and were tasked with certain, like carrying out certain orders of business. And he in particular was associated with friendly rivalry, unfriendly rivalry. He kind of presides over things like jealousy and sometimes animosity as well. But it can also be, just as we think of like being overzealous or somebody with lots of zest, it is also about like, the passion to, participate, or the passion to put one's energy forth. Now, in Latin, his name, Invidia, means to like look upon someone in a hostile manner. So not the greatest vibe. But then, as another side note, later on, it is thought anyway that he eventually became a figure in Christianity. But it's like they kind of changed a little bit about him. He still has his wings and everything, but he holds different objects. But again, that kind of like protective spirit slash, the energy or the deity that oversees, kind of energies of hostility. So an interesting little side note. So we have got the Five of Wands, which is usually, yes, it can be conflict, but usually it's like, play fighting even. It's about like bantering back and forth. It's not necessarily got meanness behind it, not like the Five of Swords would. So the Five of Wands here would not be so aggressive or hostile in manner, even though it could certainly amplify to that. But being that it's a five, it means things can change, right? So we can calm something down or we can stir it up. But obviously for Pisces, maybe there's somebody who's a little bit vexatious. Maybe there's somebody that always pushes them. Like this could be a rival in business, and it's like, oh man, that company, they're doing so great, I want to stay at the cutting edge too. Like that would be an example of like friendly rivalry, even though you might still like give them the stink eye a little bit, that kind of energy. But it is like it pushes me. Now this can also be a card of I think about things and analyze and overanalyze things. We've got Ace of Wands and we have the Death card here. Okay, so we definitely have a storyline of two different people that are both being impacted differently. So, this is Year of the Snake. We have two serpents here. We have two skulls here. So the Death card is major transformation for more than one person, which is great. We've got the Ace of Wands, which is about passion. I have passion. I have desire. I have something that I want. I have something that I want to do, something that I want to reach out for, hold on to. Six of Cups is sideways. Soulmate energy. Two people are going through the exact same set of emotions. I want you, but I want some things to change. I almost feel like Pisces has been having conflict with somebody that they care a lot about, and vice versa. But it could be that these two are so similar that they drive each other crazy. I'm hearing Fine Young Cannibals. She drives me crazy. That long blonde hair. She drives me crazy, and I just can't help myself. We got the Ace of Pentacles here sideways, or in this deck, they call it the Ace of Crystals. But it did come out sideways, which makes me think, again, two people both want a new beginning, but they could have different opinions about what they think a new beginning would look like. We certainly have, I know things have to change, and the other person's going, damn, I know things have to change. Maybe we can't bicker like this, or we can't fight like this but I still really want to be with you. Like that's kind of the vibe here. I want a new beginning. I want to hold on to what we've got as soulmates, but soulmates do help each other to learn and grow. So I don't think that we have to look at this as a negative. I mean, sure, it can be, it can be a little bit overwhelming if characters are not necessarily getting along that great. That's true. We got a Page of Wands upright. We got the Knight of Cups upright. I feel like, look, I don't know if Pisces and this person have a different view on how they'd like to go about like reconnecting. Certainly one person's like, I want to have a date. Can we go to the beach? Can we have a romantic date? Can we get, I'm hearing that song now, Strip It Down, Back to You and Me, Back to Who We Used to Be, with my cowboy boots and your little bare feet. We both know that we lost it somehow. Let's get it found. Strip It Down. I think it's Luke Bryan who sings that. It's a great, like, one of the more modern country songs, but it definitely feels like it could be like a 90s country song. I was a big fan of the 90s country and then prior. So I love it when we get the songs that kind of throw back to that era. I know I date myself. I am dating myself. Yes. I'm an 80s baby. So, 90s were like my time too. So, but with this little Page of Wands, it's like, there is still this spark. Can we go and almost like, can we have a fun, free-spirited, maybe even hot-blooded romance like we used to? That's how this feels. I want our emotions back before we started to like maybe overthink things and it was getting super intense and we were stressed out with what adulting is like, right? Adult life is hard. Life gets stressful. Things get in the way. And this just says, can we get it back? We were so good. Seven of Swords is here. There is this hiding away. So hang on. But Seven of Swords is also about lies. Let me take another look. We've got the Four of Cups in the reverse. I'm not saying anybody was using a manipulative tactic. Pisces. Sorry, this is on Pisces' side, so I have to say it this way. I'm not saying it was an intentional manipulation tactic, but we do have somebody who like intentionally hid away and said, look, I don't think it's done and over, but I don't want to talk to this person if we're going to have nothing but conflict. I'm going to use some leverage. I'm going to stay away and let them come toward me with a solution. It does feel like that was a tactic, because I am lying about it. I am holding back when I already know it's not really over, because I don't want it to be over either. And we started out, two people both saying this needs to change. But I'm wondering if Pisces did that thing where it's like, wow, if we keep having conflict, I'm going to go ahead and remove myself and fall silent. That leaves them with the last words hung in the air, and I'm the one that didn't respond, which leaves them kind of with the obligation of like, okay, hang on. I know Pisces didn't like that. I know Pisces isn't going to respond well to this. I know that if I want to fix things with Pisces, I need to broach the subject of, can we fix things, Pisces? It just feels like it was kind of a flex. It was kind of a boss move on Pisces' part to just, we have the moon here. Pisces did not know how this would work out, but I do think they made, I'm not going to say a calculating decision necessarily. I think Pisces said, I'm going to let them not know, what am I thinking about this? I'm going to not respond. I'm going to not reply to something and let them sit in the discomfort of like, wow, maybe when things went too far in that conversation, maybe our argument got a little bit not very nice. Maybe our relationship has jumped the tracks a little bit, and I'm going to let them come to that conclusion by wondering, how am I feeling about this? Now, I don't know what their next action may be, so I'm taking a bit of a gamble, but I'm also going to stand in my own Pisces energy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be exactly who I am, which is somebody that I don't want to fight with someone. And I didn't say I wanted it to be over, but I am going to withdraw. Look, Pisces can be very mysterious, right? Associated with a dreamscape and, kind of a bit of a visionary. I could see that this wouldn't necessarily be unusual for Pisces to kind of withdraw and just let their energy, let their mind flow in different directions. That might not be unusual for our Pisces, but in this storyline, I do think that they kind of intentionally said, this is what I'm going to do. Star card sideways. It's like Pisces said, I know this person wants to heal things with me, and I want to heal things with them too. but maybe I should remove my energy so that we both get a taste of like, hey, what would this be like if, if we are not going to be able to get along? Let's test the waters of either being apart or, not being in each other's worlds, because things need to change. But I'm going to go ahead and go quiet for a bit. This wasn't to give the silent treatment. It wasn't that. It was different than that. I know we could say, well, that still is the net result, withdrew when you didn't really mean to, didn't really want to, instead of, standing there and having more, conversation. But see, it wasn't conversation, it was argument. And I think that's the part where Pisces was like, okay, I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to do the arguing. That's why I don't think this was like calculating, but it was intentional. I withdrew, even though I know I don't want this to be over, but for the moment, I definitely don't want to stay in this conversation if it's going to be hostile. The best thing to do is say, don't like this. This has to change. But yes, I still want this to be worked out, but I think I got to let them approach me and see how do they want to work it out. Because I'm dancing around saying it, but it kind of feels like Pisces felt like somebody was perhaps a little bit more in the wrong than they were. We don't know if that's true or if that's a perception, but we certainly do see that this person, in this case, a masculine, has got some flowers and wants to, sit down on the beach and kind of recreate a first date or something. Three of Swords. Oh, Pisces is saying it did. It broke my heart. So maybe it was like a mean-spirited or accidentally became mean-spirited kind of argument. Once in a while, you can be talking back and forth with somebody, you're hashing stuff out, you're trying to figure things out, but then one person or the other says something and it's like, wow, that was a really low blow. And they didn't mean it. It wasn't intended. They weren't trying to, punch below the belt. But sometimes we can say stuff and it's like, oh my God, that I didn't mean that. And now that totally hurt my Pisces. But I'm wondering if that's why Pisces was like, ooh, I'm going to pull back. I don't want to, not even going to address this right now. I'm just going to go ahead and exit quietly. I do think that Pisces quiet quit. I think they walked away quietly because it really stung. It really hurt, whatever was said. Seven of Wands. Pisces did go ahead and, put it, in this case, a big water glass over them and crossed their arms and said, I'm not going to be so accessible. You can see me, but I'm not going to open up warm and fuzzy to you. You might still talk to me, but the warm Pisces, the Pisces that, shows you affection, friendship, partnership, you don't get access to that version of Pisces right now. This is very much the cold shoulder, and it's a blockage. I don't think Pisces like totally disappeared from this person. It's that they turned off their glow for this person. They turned off their vulnerability and their warmth and, the energy they would normally give comfort to this person. And I think the person got the message loud and clear. We'll say him just because that's who we have on this card. But of course, this could be feminine, masculines, same sex, doesn't matter. But because got to say the bouquet kind of looks like an apology bouquet. But if he's there to say, Pisces, will you go out with me? I want to take you someplace special. And I also want to apologize. That's what this feels like, is a reset button. Yeah. Page of Swords. They learned something about Pisces in this. I don't think Pisces, bit back if they had an argument that went a little bit too intense or, Pisces got hurt. I think they now know, if I hurt my Pisces, I've just learned something about them. They withdraw. That's probably for them is more, it actually diffuses it better, is what it says for this particular character. It brings them back to being warm and wanting to pursue with warmth and receptive energy. If I don't know that things would have gone so well if Pisces had, held their ground and kept fighting with this person. Instead, I think now that they've recognized, wow, if Pisces gets hurt, they withdraw. And that gives me time to think about like the weight of my words, or how do I want to talk to my Pisces? I don't want to fight with them. I love my Pisces. Ideally, we would always talk the nicest to the people we love the most. But sadly, I think it's exact reverse. I mean, I know, like in my own family, I will be so much more like blunt and not undiplomatic and everything like that when I'm just talking to people that are, I know really well, and I love them, they love me. But then strangers, you roll out the red carpet for, and they can say abhorrent things and you're still going to be super diplomatic. I feel like there's that element of how close you are to me determines how, just totally like real I'm going to be. But it also determines like how much I'll do for the people that I love, which there isn't a limit to how much I would do for the people that I really love. But also I should probably talk a lot sweeter and softer to them, right? So that's just kind of like a good like public service announcement. Talk nice to the people that you like the best, the people you're most comfortable with, instead of letting it all hang out. It's like, I'll put on makeup to get on camera, but I'm just going to the grocery store, going to see my next door neighbors. Who cares if I look a mess, like, but it's funny to not funny exactly. I mean, I'm making fun of myself, but I don't think in this storyline, I think it's highly relatable, but I think it's also that good public service announcement. And I think it was something that brought him up short, which is, now that I know about Pisces, when they get hurt, they go quiet and they withdraw. I don't want to lose the warmth of my Pisces. I think he is going to handle Pisces differently from now on. He's going to, I do think that this is like, wow, it doesn't feel nice when my Pisces retreats. So I'm going to make sure that, we don't get to the point of retreat anymore. That's how that comes across. All right, you guys, I'm going to leave this one here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will be back late tonight to do 2 more zodiacs. I think we're still going to get to Scorpio and Sag. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging. Bye.